The S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100, as you can see, Qs had your best weekly close of all time. Marking out a few levels here just so you can see. Before we jump right into this as well, I'm going to focus today on Qs and SPY and not really use futures too much here. So again, what you can see is you're breaking over these levels, mounting them. And as you can see, this right here, the dip that we had early into the week, you see we mount right back over that level. Perfect touch, pushing back up. Incredible really to see and how this is kind of playing out there. You go into SPY and it does like even one better, mounting it perfectly on that level as well, kind of ignoring the gap fill as well. Literally what you want to see, pushing back into those highs. Now, if there's one area in the market that I don't love to see, it's definitely DIA and Dow. This is where you didn't see the recovery really take place, but you still look good in the market overall. So I'm not going to say you don't look great, but again, Dow was basically at all-time highs, and then it just came back down. Yuck. So that's where we're at right now. But you want to see more love coming into the Dow. But essentially, you still look great across the board. I'm not very concerned. Now, obviously, the hot areas of the market that we're watching are stuff like NVIDIA and semiconductors as they break back into all-time highs. SMH obviously looks explosive here as well, ready to erupt into around 250. So that's the broad areas of the market that we have to be paying attention to and we have to be watching. We're going to go over the calendar here in a second because we have a few things on the board that we need to be paying attention to. But first, let's get into this. Speaking of trading, if you've been using a basic investing app for the past few years, I highly recommend that you step it up and graduate to a better investing platform that can grow with you, which in my opinion is today's sponsor, Moomoo. Like other platforms, Moomoo has a super intuitive user interface, really easy to use, but unlike the other platforms, they have everything that you're using right at your fingertips. Whether it be your analysis tools, up-to-the-minute live data on the markets, what's happening with options data. And it's worth mentioning, while other platforms charge a premium for the quality of data that you're getting here at Moomoo, Moomoo does not charge a dime when it comes to getting live data on the charts. So for any of you that are serious about your investment journey, Moomoo's platform is worth checking out. The link is down below. It helps me out, it helps you out. If you have any questions, comment down below. Let's get back to the video. Now, also too, I just want to make a shout out, like when it goes into these sponsors, things that we're doing, we only like to use sponsors that like we can believe in and we can actually use, and then we can actually make an impact with as well. So when it comes down to things like our indicators, right? We're able to do these or have cool indicators that you guys can use, custom scripts, etc., like our buying and selling, our supply and demand, things like this, because we're able to work with Lux Algo. So if you guys are interested and you want to support the channel, the links are down below. Code OD40 for Lux Algo. But then like with Moomoo, like we're in the process right now of finalizing a few things to make the platform even better when it comes to options. And that's why they want to work with us, is because all we really do is trade options. So like we want to help make the best platform out there when it comes to options trading. So again, if you're interested, want to support the channel, do what we do, use what we use. Again, it is out there for you. And the link for Lux Algo is down there as well. So again, that's what we're looking at now. Now going into the calendar, looking here. I went over this on Friday, so this is not too big of a refresher, right? But you can see we don't have too much going on this week. We have consumer confidence coming into Tuesday. Obviously, markets close tomorrow. But scrolling down, the biggest things we have going on are going into Thursday. You have some jobless claims, and then you have your GDP as well. GDP, jobless claims will be big Thursday. To finalize the week on Friday, you have your PCE data, and that's going to be the biggest thing of the whole entire week. Because again, according to the Fed's words, not Tyler's words, is PCE is the best measure of what's happening with inflation and where we stand there. So again, PCE, and then you also have jobless and GDP on Thursday, but PCE is on Friday. And to that though, what do we have until then? We have some Fed speakers, some consumer confidence. Consumer confidence will look good. Highly anticipating that, okay? So when we jump back into SPY, we look into Qs. I anticipate good overall movement to start the week. Highly likely. I think it's going to be led by semiconductors and the movement there. And a really interesting part here, bringing up volume, because volume is something that we've been trying to pay a lot of attention to here, okay? Now, when we look at something like SPY and what's happening here with the data, obviously the past last week, 2 weeks actually, were just terrible. Look at the volume, terrible. 50, 40, 30 million volume on SPY in a day with no holiday is actually kind of insane. We go into Edgeful and we look at that volume as well here. Again, this is just the data. I'm not lying to you. Your average volume on a Monday, your lowest volume day is like 64 million over the past year. So we can see the dramatic decline. You're getting a 37 million volume day on a Monday and a 33 million volume day on a Tuesday. Like what is happening? Go back here, another Monday, 36 million. So cutting volume almost in half. Going to the end of the week, it's closer to 85 to 90 mil. And again, we're just not seeing that volume right now. But what I will say is we started to see a little bit of an uptick into the end of this last week, even though it's not a lot. It really isn't. I want to at least see us get back into the 60s here on SPY to get some confirmation and really seeing that volume flow back into the market. Now, I will say, though, to be in an uptrend, you don't have to have crazy volume. Like, that needs to be very understood. If we scroll back to, something like, and this is something that we have to do occasionally, but if we scroll back to, for instance, 2021, you can see our volume from COVID lows back into, 2022 January highs, all-time highs right there, previous all-time highs. Volume was kind of like low and declining. You had your spikes occasionally, but for the most part, it was declining. It wasn't crazy. So the fact that we're actually kind of moving consistently a little bit better than we were back here, worth mentioning, but we're kind of declining here. It's not that big of a shocker, but I would like to see some increased volume as we break out into highs. That's the biggest thing that I can say, and the biggest complaint that I have about this move is kind of like the lack of trust with some of the moves occasionally is we need more volume, like getting a breakout volume, breakout decline, whatever it may be. That's what we like to see is increase of volume there. So that's the one thing that I'm looking at and trying to pay close attention to. Q volume looks better, I will say that. So again, on the market, what are we looking at the most right now? It's going to be something like SMH. I think semiconductors are hot. You're breaking out. You look really good. This is SMH. This is not NVIDIA, even though it looks very similar. If you look at SMH, it's trying to break out. Now, there's a few ways you can attack this. I think NVIDIA had a phenomenal close on Friday. You break and hold, 1063. I think you're pushing into 1100 personally. Other areas of the market you're looking at, stuff like AMD. Push above 168.5 and you look good. Obviously, when we go into like what's happening here on Moomoo, we go to look at some of the option chains here as well. The options are much cheaper on AMD. You can go like 30 days, 26, 30 days out, and you're about the 170s, about $5. And they move good. So you can actually track that movement as well. They're not bad. Like, they really do. They move solid. So I will say that. Like, those are things that you should be looking at. NVIDIA's move really good as well, but you're kind of trapped with trading closer dated contracts, in my opinion, or you have to go pretty far out of the money to trade those, to get decent movement. So it's kind of played how you want, but again, I would prefer a little bit more time on my contracts personally. Again, next thing I'd be looking at too is something like Micron as well. Micron has been moving surprisingly good, and I don't love trading it, but it has been moving good. Going, a few dollars of the money, you still are getting pretty decent movement on these contracts as well. We go into Micron, and as you can see, you do look good. You're kind of just basing up here at highs. You're trying to get the breakout right now. If we can get the breakout above locally around 130, holding above 130, I think you're pushing into highs 134, 136 potentially. A good markout level I'd be watching right about there, 130.55 above, and a mount and hold above that, like on the 2 hour, 1 hour would be very strong and, in my opinion, push us into highs, and that would be a good overall movement. Another name I'm watching too is something like AVGO, consolidating here highs. You broke all-time highs. You had a really good push. I think a bigger move is coming here as well. Broad market, some of the names that may be a little bit more opportunistic, right, on this little dip that we're getting, right? Or some of these names that are dipping. Amazon, if you hold above 180, I still like it. I still think it's a great name to watch. Holding above 180, I think you could push back into 185, maybe even back into highs of 188, 189. Be watching that name as well. Contracts there as well. Very, very cheap. But if I'm buying a name like Amazon, right, and I'm buying a name more on a dip like this, then I'm looking for, in my opinion, a little bit more time on the contract for a few reasons. Doesn't mean I'm going to hold through a dip. That is not what it means. But I want to be able to hold for a decent move. So I want to grab something like the 190s. If they get in the money, you're obviously going to make 100% on those contracts, even close to the 180s, right? And, getting back into 190 is possible. It's not even at all-time high. So that's things you have to be able to consider. But the other part of this, too, is like if we start breaking back down, my loss is going to be minimal in comparison to what I'm looking to gain here, right? I'm not trying to scalp Amazon back in 183. I'm looking for 185, possibly back into 190, 188. So again, that's the overall trade plan there. I'm not looking to scalp a name like Amazon. Just like when we traded Meta like a week, 2 weeks. I don't even know when we traded this thing, right? Back here, when we broke above 453. We weren't looking for a $2 move. We were looking for the big move back into 477, 475. We go back to Netflix when we're looking here, right? When we traded this back over 576, 580. We weren't looking for a $5 move. We were looking for a $25 move into 605. And that played out even better into 650. But like understand your trade plan and your strategy, because again, that's what makes your trade have value and you understand what you should be getting in versus what you should not be trading, right? And so those are things that you have to be looking at, things that you have to be conscious of at all times. I go to something like Tesla, like you're looking decent on Tesla, you're not looking terrible, but like you're below your 200 SMA on the daily. Like it's just not good action. You're below your 200 SMA on the weekly. These are not good things. These are not things that you love to see here, right? So we want to see buyers step back in, want to see getting back into this, but right now, not ideal, not the best movement. So again, things we're looking at, things we're watching overall. We want to see if, Coinbase too, another big name this week in my opinion. Probably one of the last things we'll talk about here. But Bitcoin above 69.2K. As you can see this weekend, we've been kind of hitting a brick wall near 69.2. We are breaking out of that right now. I think Bitcoin and Ethereum are about to break out. I think Ethereum, I would not be surprised if we wake up Tuesday morning and Ethereum's in the 4,000s. It should be in the 4,000s in my opinion. But Coinbase is the biggest winner here in my opinion. Above 238, I think this thing's running back into 268, 270. And I really think Coinbase could run back into all-time highs. If you want to get a little bit, crazier, MicroStrategy, I think this is pushing back into all-time highs. I think this is crazy. This is a crazy statement. But Bitcoin breaks, and in my mind, I think Bitcoin's running to alts. I think Bitcoin's making a 100K push. I think it's going to happen. That happens, MicroStrategy is passing $3,000. Like that's just what's going to happen. The amount of flow that's coming in here. And again, this MicroStrategy move back here in February should have been an eye opener. You went from $600 to $2,000 in a matter of a month and a half. Not even about a month. About a month, you moved up $1,400. So again, my opinion, what I'm looking at, what I'm watching. And again, this is more than just Bitcoin. Ethereum is going to get going too with the ETS being passed. A lot of opportunity. And again, this is one of the more exciting times because, we made money scalping over the past few days and weeks. But when you start getting the breakout potential, that's where the big money starts to flow in. So again, if you have questions, comment down below. See you guys tomorrow. Have a good one, traders.